What's up guys, it's Yugioh here and welcome to another amazing video on the channel. So yes, the king is back. I've come out with another invoked deck. Alistair, the king, the boy, whatever you want to call him, is back. We have a Melodious invoked deck profile. This is probably my most potent invoked mix yet. Once you see the synergies in the combo guide that will be coming out either next video or the video after, you're going to be like, damn, I need to get on this spice right now. I have saved the format. But if you are new around here, make sure you do subscribe. It is free. On the road to 4K, it all starts with you, the viewer. Yes, you who are not subscribed, who is currently watching. If you love Invoked, it is one of my favorite decks. So I always try to keep it updated and I always try to splash it in as many different things as possible. With all that being said, I'm going to finish blabbering on. Let's get straight into the deck profile. So starting off with the deck profile here, we have, of course, triple of the boy. I'm tired of telling you guys why this guy is just absolutely insane and the best card in Yu-Gi-Oh! But if you're new around here and you've never heard of Invoked, what does he do? Well, before I tell you what he does, I'm going to tell you why he's useful. He's a level 4 Dark Spellcaster, and those are an amazing pair of sort of criteria to have. Not only with the Bestial does he make a level 10, not only is he dark to allow dark trauma plays, but he's also level 4, meaning he can go into a light with Artemis, which is fantastic. So on normal or flip face up, remember that, you add a invocation from your deck to your hand. You may think that's pretty simple, but that's what we need him for. He's just here, Mr. Consistency, Mr. Repetition. You're going to be doing this every single turn, giving you advantage. He also has a quick effect that you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. You target one fusion monster you control and it gains 1,000 attack and defense until the end of the turn. Since this does modulate attack, on a quick effect, you can actually use this during the damage step, which is fantastic. And makes your opponent think twice if they want to hit over your fusions, which is a little mind game that he also provides. To search our guy, we have triple of the Magical Meltdown. Cards, fantastic. What does it do? On activation, it adds you Alistair the Invoker from your deck to your hand. So this is copy 456 of Alistair the Invoker. It also has arguably one of the most confusing effects that a field spell could have. We also see this effect on Branded Lost, as this card was the inspiration for it. So the activation of your cards and effects that include an effect that fusion summons a fusion monster cannot be negated. Also, your opponent's cards and effects cannot activate when a monster is fusion summoned this way. What the hell does this mean? It basically means that if you fusion summon a monster and then use its effect on a quick effect, your opponent cannot respond. If you fusion summon a monster and then it has a on summon effect, your opponent cannot respond. It's also pretty cool because that means if you have multiple chains, you can just make sure that the fusion is the last chain and your opponent cannot respond, which is fantastic. Fantastic card. And of course, the one Invocation. This card is really good. Why do we play one? Because we never want to see it in our hand. It is useless. Not in this build, but for the most part, it is useless without the boy, because the boy is needed for all our fusion summons. What does it do? Well, it allows you to fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand as fusion material, which is basically a poly, but just from the hand. If summoning an invoked fusion monster this way, you can also banish monsters from your field and or either player's graveyard, which is absolutely insane. It means that your opponent's graveyard, they got a bunch of attributes, you can use them. It also has the incredible effect that if this card is in your graveyard, you can target one of your banished Alistair the Invokers, shuffle this card into the deck, and if you do, add that card to your hand. So people are like, yo, Bestials absolutely kill the deck. They kill the deck for one turn. One turn, because Invocation, if they do it on Chain of Invocation, which 9 times out of 10 they do, when in reality they probably should wait. Or not even wait, they should probably just do it before you even activate the Invocation, because once Invocation's in the grave, target your banished Alistair, add it back to the hand, Invocation goes into the deck, you're ready to go again next turn. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And for the pairing engine, we have the Melodious engine. So we have triple Refrain, the Melodious Songstress. The Melodious package on its own is incredible. Combine it with Invoked, it's even better. The deck usually doesn't use its normal summon, even though this card can be normaled and gains effect, it also triggers on special, which is important when we have a fusion monster that can special the Melodious out the deck. So it's a pendulum monster, it has a lot going on. I'm going to try break down the effects for you so we don't have to read an essay. Effectively, it's a foolish burial by targeting a Melodious fusion monster you control, and then the monster gains the attack to the cent equal to the level of the cent Melodious times 200. So it's basically just a foolish burial. And if this card is normal special summon, you can add a Melodious monster from your deck to your hand. If a Melodious fusion monster is special summoned while this card is in the extra deck, you can place it back in the scale, which is amazing for chain blocking too. So, fantastic card. I play 3, you might think it conflicts with Alistair. It really doesn't. And even then, 6 normal summons is on the limit, I think, of what you should really play. So if you don't open a way to get to the Invoked engine, you can always just normal the Refrain and go full Melodious combo instead, which is amazing. Triple Couplet, the Melodious Songstress. Again, this is part of the new support from Legacy of Destruction that we saw the Refrain from. Couplet again, I'm going to try to break down her effects. If you do not control any face-up monsters other than Melodious, it also counts if there's nothing on the field. You can add 1 Melodious spell or trap from your deck to your hand. That's really important because this allows us to add Melodious Concerto. And Concerto is a fusion spell that essentially can use your pendulum monsters in the pendulum zones as material. So it kickstarts your whole combo. It also has a fantastic monster effect where if this card is added to the hand, except by drawing it for your normal draw, you can reveal this card and special a level 4 lower Melodious from your graveyard. It also shares the same effect as Refrain, able to place itself back onto the pendulum zones from the extra deck when you fusion summon a Melodious monster. So these two are really the heart and soul of the Melodious engine now. They had some pretty decent cards before, but with these, the deck is just on a whole new other level. These cards are just really, really good. They're fantastic. To round off the Melodious monsters, remember this isn't a pure Melodious deck. We don't play all of them. We don't play Soprano. We don't play Aria. We just play the minimum. We play the 1 Tam Tam and the 1 Chopiner. Why do we play Chopiner? We play Chopiner because it's needed for the big fusion. And this really, really does help. It's actually needed for 2 of the fusions. But we don't play the other ones. We play the, what is it called? I believe it's through here somewhere. The Flowering Etoile. And that needs a Chopiner. And that's pretty much our best form of interruption during our opponent's turn, the Melodious side. So we play Chopiner for that. It also has a decent effect that isn't once per turn, by the way. It's a soft once per turn, it's not hard. Once per turn, target a light fairy and add it to your hand. You cannot activate non-light monster effects during the turn you activate this effect, which is pretty important to note because if we use that effect, we're not going to be able to essentially use our Alistair the Invoker. But we can just do it at the end of our turn anyway, so it doesn't matter. Once we commit to the Alistair play, we can then use Chopiner to our heart's content, which is fantastic. We have the 1 Tam Tam, the Melodious Diva, which again, I think is a very, very good card because on special summon, it's going to be able to add a polymerization from our deck or graveyard to hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard as fusion material, it basically has a burn effect as well, which helps in time. So just remember that if you do summon the Chopiner, it's not really to grab anything back from the grave because then you will be locked into light monsters. So just summon it for the name, and then you can make your really nice interruptions. Tam Tam is really good, adding you a poly from essentially anywhere, the deck or the graveyard, back to your hand. So, and it's not once per turn either, so you can keep looping that 1 poly, which is absolutely fantastic and allows us to really push our fusion plays. We have triple of the Ostinato. This card is branded fusion, essentially, but for Melodious, it doesn't lock you either, so it's absolutely fantastic. If you control no monsters, fusion summon 1 Melodious from your extra deck using 2 monsters from your hand and or deck as fusion material, which is fantastic. During the end phase of this turn, destroy the monster that's fusion summoned by this effect, and if you do, you can basically reborn all of the fusion materials back, but the monster you summon, which is usually the backer, is never going to be on the field at the end phase unless you got heavily hand trapped. So just a really, really free extender. Amazing, because you know, if they waste the Ash on this, you can then just go normal Alistair, activate Meltdown, grab Alistair, and just play from there. And all of the Melodious are lights as well, by the way. I forgot to mention that. They're all lights, which work very, very well, not only with our Bestials, but with, of course, Alistair the Invoker. We also have the 1 Melodious Concerto. Card's amazing. What does it do? Well, you just fusion summon a fairy fusion from your extra deck using monsters from your hand, field, and or pendulum zones, which is amazing. If a Melodious fusion monster is sent to the graveyard while this card is in your graveyard, you basically put it at the bottom of your deck and you draw one card. So it also acts as a little bit of draw power too, which is amazing. For our third engine, we have the Bestial engine, because the Branded Regained works extremely well with our Melodious fusion in the name of the Shaberta, because the Shaberta on a quick effect can banish any card from either player's graveyard. And if you have Branded Regained, you just banish your lights, return them, draw a card. You do that every single turn, draw a turn in your opponent's turn, and you're going to accumulate a lot of advantage. So triple of the Bestial Lubellion, because not only does he search Bestials, but also one on the field allows you to just place your Branded Regains straight from the deck to the field. So we play triple of him. He's also a light, which is very important in a situation where you only open him and Alistair. We have the 1 Bestial Magnamut, because this card's at 1. The 1 Bestial Boldrake, because I think it's probably the third best target to play behind the Bestial Druisworm. So that's why we play these. Just one of each. We don't need too many. 6 Bestials is more than enough. You see them occasionally, and they also act as pseudo hand traps too. So Magnamut, they all share the effect, but I'm gonna go just read Magnamuts quickly, and then I'm just gonna skip those effects for the Bestials since they do share the same effect. The Bestials are able to target a light or dark monster in either player's graveyard and then special summon themselves. If your opponent controls a monster, that is a quick effect. That is all the effects that these 3 Bestials share, so I'm not gonna go over it again. Where it's different is that on summon, Magnamut is going to be able to add a dragon from your deck or graveyard to your hand during the end phase. Boldrake actually has some summon disruption, so if your opponent special summons a Ritual Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link, you contribute one other light or dark monster, target one of those special summon, and banish it. And Druisworm has an effect that when it is sent to the graveyard, you can target a special summon monster your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. So they all do different things. Magnamut searches, Boldrake is summon, disruption, and Druisworm is just breaking a board basically. So they all serve different purposes. They all have 2,500 attack. They're all dragons. They're all dark. They're all level 6. Just keep that in mind. Very important. 1 Alistair and a Bestial equals a Chaos Angel and a Mechaba too, which is amazing. We have 1 Branded Regained. This card is so underrated. I don't understand how people just don't play this card at all, like in most decks with the Bestials. This card is cracked. It's so good. The more you play it, the more you realize how good this card is. So it has a couple effects I'm going to read. If a light or dark monster is banished, you can target one of those monsters, place it to the bottom of your deck, and if you do, draw a card. This is the effect that works very well with our Melodious Shaberta. If your opponent normal or special summons a monster, except during the damage step, you target a Bestial monster in your graveyard and you special summon it. That is incredible. Special Magnamut back, you get another search. Special Druisworm, you get another send. Special Boldrake, another summon negation. You can even bring back Lubellion if you just want a big 3k defense monster. Really good card. Couldn't rate it highly enough. For the hand traps, triple Ash, because Ash is Ash. I know MBT doesn't like that excuse, but Ash just does genuinely hurt a lot of rogue and even meta decks. If an Ash in the right place will sort of destroy the end board they are trying to make. It's not enough alone, don't get me wrong, but it does help weaken those boards. We have triple of the Veiler. People are saying, would you play the new Mulch Army if you had it? No, actually, because we need the light targets for our Alistair. And Veiler is a non-once per turn light that we can use when it's in the graveyard to fuel our Mechaba summons. Although we could decide, we are siding the Mulch Army, obviously, because it's very good. Or, again, more big lights. Triple Nibiru. Card just ends opponent's turns and don't respect the Nibiru and you get hit by it. GG's, game's over. Let's go to the next game. I need to say more. It basically tributes the whole field when your opponent has normal or special summoned 5 or more times that turn, which is very easy in modern day Yu-Gi-Oh! So just be careful with it. Triple of the Infinite Impermanence. This is the hand trap that is best to draw off the top because you can immediately use it. It's not actually a monster, it's a trap. Despite being called hand trap, it's actually just a normal trap, unlike the typical monsters that they would be. Doesn't trigger talents, doesn't trigger thrust, isn't once per turn. Only thing I can say is it isn't a light, but it's very good anyway. For consistency, Terraforming, just basically the 7th copy of Alistair, because this can get Meltdown gets Alistair gets Invocation, and you go from there. 1 pot of Prosperity. You can just cut pot of Prosperity and play 40. Deck's more consistent with 41 on Prosperity. I've done the math. Just play it. And we have, of course, the 1 Polymerization as well as our Tam target. And Polarization is just good as well. Like, you just have a random Alistair there, and you have a Melodious. You can just poly into anything, or you can just use the Melodiouses into poly into something, and then grab poly back. You can even go Guardian Chimera with the Alistair in the field and some cards in hand. It's a fantastic card, and obviously gives Guardian Chimera the extra protection. So it's been good since it came out, guys. This card's like 25 years old, man. It's still good. Still so good. So that is the main deck, 41 cards. Let's now move on into the extra deck. Moving on into the extra deck, one access code talker. You can climb into this card very easily now thanks to the Melodious monsters, so you don't even necessarily need to link climb into it. You can just make it because Melodious give you so many bodies. We have one Selene. We still play the Selene just because it's able to just revive our Alistair on a quick effect, by the way. Never realized that till like a couple months ago, which is insane. One SP Little Knight. I know, this card's expensive, but it is necessary if you want to get your rogue decks to compete with the meta. So we are playing an SP Little Knight. We're playing one Dark, the Dark Charmer Gloomy. Alistair's naturally a Dark, so Alistair plus anything makes a Dark, and then you can either go into an SP or go into a Selene. Selene revive, go into access code. So that is why we play the Dark. It's very, very useful. We also have the one IP Masquerena, breaking the max rarity trend, sadly, but hopefully I can pick up a Starlight one day. IP Masquerena is very good, especially IP into SP. Just give banish during your opponent's turn is absolutely fantastic. Also means that the SP can't be destroyed by card effects too, which comes up sometimes. We have one Cross Sheep because this just helps a lot with combo making. And we have the one Artemis too, as one Alistair can go into an Artemis and you can immediately use Invocation, banish Artemis as your light target, banish Alistair, free Macabre. So that is why we play Artemis. If you don't have Artemis, or you don't want to play Artemis, or you're playing the Dogmatica package, you can play Almirage into Secure Gardener, as that does get a light on the field and an extra deck body in the graveyard for your Maximus to be able to banish to summon himself. For all the fusions, very simple. One Agoides, one Mechaba. We can make these basically both at the same time now because of the Melodious package, which is pretty cool. Macabre, you can tell it came out 10 years ago. It's a bit dated now. The best you're going to do is trade 1-for-1 with it. The opponent usually has to deal with this, so they imperm it or they droplet it. And that deals with sort of one card in their hand for one card in the field. That didn't really cost you anything because Alistair's back in your hand. But in those cases where, he doesn't get negated, a negate banish is still very good. Yes, you have to pitch a card, but in this kind of build, we're going to have loads of cards in our hand between the regain draws and just the Melodious package, getting loads of resources. The Agoides we can make again alongside the Macabre, and it's basically either on special or when your opponent special summons a monster, you're going to be able to target one of them and destroy it. You can banish a fusion from your grave, and this card gains the attack equal to that banished monster's attack until the end of your opponent's turn, so that really helps with OTKs. For the Melodious Fusions, double Shaberta. This is such a good card, guys. You don't understand. It's during either player's turn, you can target up to 3 cards in any graveyard and banish them. That is a quick effect, even though it doesn't say quick effect. This is before Konami decided to just put quick effect, so they have during either player's turn. And then it gains the 200 attack, meaning that when you banish 3, it's going to be at 3k immediately. It can only be used once while this card is face up on the field, but there's ways around that, as you're going to find very shortly. And again, it is a soft once per turn because we have 2 copies, and if we summon 2 copies, we're going to be able to banish 6 cards in one turn, which is fantastic. Trigger our regain too. We have our Flowering Etoile. This is how we're going to be looping our Shabertas, because this card takes the Melodious Maestra, which is a bit annoying because we basically have to play the Maestra just to summon this girl, but she's very, very good. What does she do? Well, she takes Maestra and 2 Melodious, so you might think big commitment. Not really. The deck can spam out Melodious very, very easily. And on a quick effect, you can banish until the end phase any number of Melodious monsters you control, and this is an optional. You can just do that for the sake of doing it. Then you can return up to that many face-up cards your opponent controls to the hand. This is how also we can play around Nib. Let's say we have a full board of Melodious Fusions. They go Nib, we chain Etoile, banish our 3 Melodious cards, Nib resolves, and then in the end phase, we get them back, which is amazing. And this is how we can get rid of the sort of restriction Shaberta has, because once it's in the banished, it's not on the field anymore, and then it returns, we can use the effect again, which is how we basically loop them forever, which is pretty cool. And then if they do out this card, basically just buy an opponent's card. You can special summon a Melodious monster from your deck or extra deck, so just keep that in mind. We have the one backer, the Melodious Maestro. This card is so essential for combos. I only play 1 because you can easily put it back, essentially, either with the shopper now. We use the effect, put it back. Or there's just loads of ways of getting this card back, to be honest with you. And what does it do? Well, while you control this fusion summon card, the activated effects of your Melodious fusion monsters cannot be negated. This sounds a lot better than what it actually is. This card can still be Veilered. This card can still be Ashed. If they Veiler it, they essentially negate the first effect, negating the second. If they Ash, I think they only negate the summon, but they can still Ash it. It's very weird wording, but you just have to take my word in. They can Ash, they can Veiler, they can Imperm this. But it does provide some protection in terms of you cannot, for example, just strike a Melodious effect because that would be negating it and you just cannot be negated. So, yeah. It's weird. Correct me in the comments if I explained it badly. I'm sure you guys are better able to explain. This is usually on a one take, so it's not the easiest job. We also play the 1 Guardian Chimera, 3 monsters, different names, and essentially gains, well, its effect depends on where the materials are. If used from the field, you blow up cards. If used from hand, you draw cards. You can do a combination of both. And while Polymerization is in your graveyard, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, which is insane. And it has 3,300 attack and defense. It's huge. It's a big boy. So I like having the Chimera there just as a backup plan, or even just going second, breaking a board. And that is exactly why I have the Chaos Angel as well. Not only can we do a Melodious and a Bestial for the dark and light to get the full protection, it's also just people don't expect an Alistair and a Bestial to go into a Chaos Angel. 1 Bestial and 1 Alistair equals either, depending on the conditions, a access code or Chaos Angel, or just a bunch of IP or an SP or a cross sheep. There's just so many combinations you can do with Alistair. And if you stick around till, I believe this video is going to be coming out on a Monday, or potentially this video could be coming out on a Friday, come back on either Monday or Friday and check out the combo guide that will be dropping for this deck. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. It is insane. But yes, Chaos Angel, on summon, banish a card. And if you use lights, Synchro monsters you control are unaffected by monster effects, and dark monsters can be destroyed by battle. You may think, yo, we don't have any tuners. This card doesn't need tuners. It can treat a light or dark as a tuner, which is fantastic. So that is the end of this updated Invoked deck profile. I always try and do regular updates with Invoked, so if you do love Invoked, make sure you do subscribe. It is my favorite deck of all time. I always try to have Invoked on the channel as much as possible. And if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe. As I said in the beginning, we are going for 4K this year, and it's almost 2025, and well, decently close to 4K. So it all starts with you, the viewer. Just hit the subscribe button. It is free, and I'll see you all in the next video.